So now we're gonna dive into the digestive system, which is one of the ones that I've struggled the most with. So just a little bit of my personal life experience. I used to have a very healthy gut as a young girl. When I turned 14 years old, I got my appendix removed, and my whole digestive flow slowed down pretty quickly. So I started suffering of severe heartburn because I was very sensitive to most foods, and this will ferment in my colon. Usually, I will not eat at night, but then I will still have all the reflux, which is really, really, painful when you're trying to go to bed. As I grew older, it became a bigger problem due to, I have anxiety and stress in some of my relationships and work. And in addition, I also have some issues with my mom because she got sick when I was like about 19, 20 years old. And also, most of my mom's side of the family have always suffered from liver problems and very high cholesterol levels. So I had to pay close attention to all of this from a very young age. And these days, I do a colon cleanse every 6 months. I take some herbal teas from Mexico for the detox, and I also apply Ayurveda principles to my daily routine. So, as I mentioned before, Ayurveda is the science of life. My biggest challenge was learning how to digest my emotions because it really is not just about what you eat, but how you eat it. So, some important facts about the digestive system. So, the digestive system controls nutrient absorption, energy, mood, and the immune system. Everybody says that your gut is literally your first brain, not your second brain. So there was a time I believe digestion was just about food, calories in, energy out, the simple mechanics of eating. But the truth is far deeper. Our digestive system is not just a physical process, it is the spark of transformation, really. The fire that turns what we consume into who we become. But when I first learned about Agni, the Sanskrit word for digestive fire, something clicked. Ayurveda teaches that Agni governs not only digestion of food, but also the digestion of thoughts, emotions, and experiences. So if the fire burns too low, we feel sluggish and heavy. If it burns too hot, we experience irritation, acidity, or anger. Science has another name for this balance, homeostasis, which is the elegant dance of enzymes, acids, and hormones. They keep the human body in harmony. But anyway, 70% of your immune system, your immunity lives in your gut. And the microbiome affects decision making, your metabolism, and of course, the inflammation. And emotional digestion is just as important as physical digestion. In this chapter, our learning outcomes will be understanding how the food becomes energy, what weakens or strengthens our acne, how stress shuts down digestion, why the gut toxins, which toxins are called ama in Sanskrit, create disease, how to detox naturally and safely, and finally, we're going to mention the foods, herbs, and vitamins and daily habits that restore gut health. So the journey of food. Now, this is a very interesting one. So from a biological perspective, digestion begins before the first bite. The brain and gut are intimately linked through the vagus nerve as a bidirectional communication highway, sometimes called the gut-brain axis. So when you see or smell food, the brain signals the stomach to produce the gastric juices, to prepare the body to receive nourishment. So once the food enters the mouth, emit the saliva, a biochemical cocktail containing amylase, an enzyme that starts breaking down carbohydrates. So the stomach hydrochloric acid continues the process, activating pepsin to digest proteins. By the time the food reaches the small intestine, it becomes chyme, ready for absorption through the intestinal walls. Your small intestine is a marvel of design, really, like nearly 20 feet long. And they're covered in tiny villi that expands its surface area about 2,700 square feet, which is kind of like the size of a tennis court. And these microscopic projections allow the bloodstream to absorb amino acids, fatty acids, the vitamins and minerals with extraordinary efficiency. Now, the liver and pancreas, they join this dance because the liver produces bile to emulsify fats, while the pancreas releases enzymes that finalize digestion. So finally, their large intestine absorbs water and electrolytes and the microbiome. Trillions of bacteria living symbiotically within us. That's the microbiome, which completes the final act of transformation. So, an interesting fact is that 90% of nutrient absorption happens in the small intestine, in case you didn't know that. That's why it's so important to do all these cleanses. Also, fasting can help to reset the intestine and the colon as well. So the microbiome is literally our second brain, but I call it our first brain because 100 trillion microorganisms live within it. And it also helps regulate your mood, appetite, immunity, and hormones. It also produces serotonin, dopamine, which are neurotransmitters, and B vitamins, which are very important for your immune system. And they also communicate through the gut-brain axis, like we mentioned before. And so 95% of serotonin is actually produced in the gut. So any chemical imbalances, are always related to your intestinal health. Now we're talking about Ayurveda, right? And Agni, we say this is the digestive fire, which basically controls not only the digestion, but absorption, assimilation, transformation, and emotionally processing. If you have a weak Agni, it's basically you're going to be prone to gas, bloating, fatigue, which are basically after eating, you get very, very tired. It's like the food coma that we call. But if you have a strong Agni, you are actually going to have vitality after eating, clarity, glowing skin, improved mood. It makes a big, big difference in the way you digest. So there's a few types of Agni. I would say the main four ones is the Tikshna, which is the overactive, which would say is when you're acidic, when you're eating, when you're angry, when you just have inflammation. Then Mandagni, which is the low fire, slow digestion, heaviness, weight gain. That used to be me after my surgery. Vishama Agni is irregular. So you have Vata issues, anxiety, constipation because nothing is flowing. Sama Agni is the balance Agni, which is the perfect digestion where we all want to be, right? Because any unprocessed emotions, remember, is unprocessed food, and that's gonna get stuck and be fermented in your intestines. So how the ama forms? If you are eating while you're stressed or angry, also consuming a lot of cold foods is not good for your. In China, they call it a qi, the kind of like the energy force that helps you maintain your balance in the body. And this is the same concept here. We don't, Ayurveda teaches you that cold foods are not good. Even room temperature is good, but not cold, like iced. Inflammatory foods, of course, there's some of them that, especially the processed foods, overeating. If you know you have had enough, you shouldn't eat more than past your limit. Otherwise, you're going to have more like I used to have heartburn and fermented food in the intestine. Caffeine is pretty bad because it dehydrates you, same as alcohol and the sugar that is never good for anything, really, processed sugar especially. And of course, the emotional repression that we talked about before. So the lipolysaccharides, I don't know if I said it correct, LPS, toxins from harmful bacteria that trigger inflammation. And like I said, that happens a lot if you're not digesting food. Everything gets fermented. If you don't wait, let's say 4 hours before your next meal, the food will more than likely be fermented in your intestine and you're going to have acidity, and you're not supposed to be eating all the time, or snacking is not really recommended. That's one of the reasons. So again, what are the signs of toxicity? So if you have a white tongue coating, sometimes that could be it. It could also be because you have excess of yeast in your body. Then you have the heavy body and mind. Basically you don't have any energy to do things or even to think, like brain fog, fatigue after eating, like I mentioned before. Bad breath is a big one, because that comes from all the inside out, like I said, gas and bloating, or skin rashes, like, once I used to have eczema, for example, or joint inflammation. And that could also be from the uric acid. We'll talk about that in the next system. But just know that your gut remembers what your mind tried to forget. So it's never about you like repressing how you feel. It's more like understanding it, accepting it, and just acknowledging it so you can actually digest it properly. It's not about denial or giving it too much attention. It's just about the balance of acknowledging how you feel or what made you feel that way so you can digest properly your food. Okay, so there are some resets that I will recommend. So I like warm soups or kichari, and we'll provide some of those recipes so you can prepare one for yourself. And it's not really complicated, but it has to have the right amount of spices to kind of like, for example, when you add black pepper to the turmeric, you activate it. So it's kind of nice to know these little things. Ginger tea, it's very anti-inflammatory, really good. So the CCFT is the cumin, coriander, and fennel seeds. Triphala at night, and we can probably talk about that more. Abhyanga, which is the oil massage that I kind of mentioned, is when you use Ayurvedic oils and you just put it in your body. It really helps me at night because then my body knows it's almost bedtime, and it's a way to relax my nervous system. So you just apply all over your body. It can be just like simple as coconut oil with some, essential oils. Early bedtime is always important. I go to bed at 10 and wake up like around 6 or 7. So at least having your 8 hours is great, but 7 to 8 is not that bad. And of course, no snacking, especially at night. It's really important that you let your body rest. And when you eat at night, you have to stop probably around 7 if you go to bed at 10. So you have 3 or 4 hours to digest your food. Otherwise, your body will never rest, especially your liver. But remember that an Ayurvedic diet is very specific to your body type. Not everybody is built the same way, and that's fine. So again, we do have all of these different detoxes with triphala, ginger, turmeric. Aloe vera is really good. I usually have one of those as a pill, or you can have it as a liquid. Either one works. Licorice root, slippery elm, and marshmallow root. But overall, the turmeric is one of the key elements in Ayurveda because it reduces inflammation. And the NF-kB pathways is just a way cells communicate pretty fast. And so the turmeric helps reduce inflammation via those pathways, which is pretty powerful for your body. Now, some supplements that are out there in case, you don't want to, or you are traveling or you don't have ginger or access to certain of the herbal stuff, you can also take some L-glutamine, which repairs the gut lining. Probiotics are always very important, no matter what. That can be yogurt, that can be in a pill, whatever form you have it. Just make sure that it has enough, what I call this, the FU units, which is basically how many, I usually see it in billions, which is my preference. But yeah, basically you can have it in any way or form that is good for your body, but it's very, very important to look at the units in your pill case. They will show you in the supplement facts. You can see how much it is, the amount per serving. But anyway, there are so many billion CFUs that you can use. I will say at least for me, I take 10 billion CFUs. Now, omega-3, extremely important to have, the absorption with the vitamin D as well. I mean, I think these are just very, very important for your brain and body. Omega-3, vitamin D is actually a hormone, not a vitamin, but we'll kind of call it vitamin here. Magnesium and zinc. Zinc for your immune system, magnesium to rest at night, your body. And it's all connected, like I said, because the gut is very, very like your brain. And it will know exactly what to do. You just have to let it rest, and eat your food with patience, in a good mood. And of course, don't snack. Again, always check the supplement's purity, and if they're USP verified, and if not, well, you at least have to read the labels. Please always carefully read the labels. So what are those heavy metals that we talked about? Because heavy metals these days are everywhere, and we know this. Like they could be lead, cadmium, mercury, arsenic. They can be in the water. They can be anywhere. And there's so much industrial pollution, processed foods. And the problem is that these metals accumulate in the liver and intestinal lining, where they disrupt enzyme activity and mitochondrial energy production. So how does it damage the microbiome? Well, basically, like I mentioned, it will destroy your enzyme and all the energy production in the mitochondria, which is not ideal. And then you have a very slow peristalsis, which is the mouse movement, basically how you digest, how everything moves inside of you. And then that will disrupt your stomach acid and create inflammation, accumulate in fat and tissue. That's why when you are not digesting or something properly, or you're not releasing the toxins, the liver will accumulate it in fat in your tissue. That's why we have fatty liver too. And many people have that problem these days. So just something to keep in mind of how heavy metals can really impact your digestive system. And there is circulation, which is basically a detox. And the way I did it is you can do it through diet. You can eat a lot of fiber or foods that actually kind of like impact or kind of like help you digest those heavy metals out of your body. So you're gonna eventually, release them when you go to the bathroom, because the fiber will let you or will help you kind of clean that up. But at the same time, there's other things that you can eat, like the cilantro, which is very good activator. The chlorella, I've taken spirulina a lot, especially for my high cholesterol. Garlic is always powerful and very, very good for any kind of inflammation. But at the same time, if you have any like, I even used it for mosquito bites, which is very nice. The way that it heals your body. If you just cut a piece of garlic and put it in a mosquito bite, which is amazing what the garlic can do. Onions, of course, broccoli, one of my favorites, blueberries, has a lot of antioxidants, and the winner of always is turmeric. So what other detox tools do we have? So we have other supplements that are more specific, and they're listed here. I will always take vitamin C. The other two, I haven't tried them yet, but they're also recommended. And the Teomasios Earth, I did try it. It tasted a really interesting, like powder taste. It's very natural, and you have to make sure you're buying natural. Just don't go to Amazon and buy any brand, but it's something that it will help you remove parasites. I took it for about a month. It did cleanse a lot of my problems that I used to have. When I travel a lot, you get parasites no matter what you do. The food, when you go to a restaurant, you don't know if they're cleaning the food properly. So that can happen. This earth really, really helped me improve my digestion, provide silica. But again, you have to get it from a really, really good source. Now, the zeolite is also pretty good because it binds heavy metals and supports the gut bacteria as well. So one of those two have been very powerful for me. This one looks a little bit more gray, I think. The other one's kind of white. But yeah, either one, I combined both. And I did like a protocol for like a month, and it did help me a lot. It made me sleep a little bit. It gets you sleepy because your kidneys are clearing up so much that you haven't really, releasing a long time. But yeah, I will take it at night. So it wasn't bad. During the day and night, at the beginning, and then just nighttime. Pretty powerful stuff. Okay, and then we also have supports for the digestive system. What is the best foods for gut healing? I definitely say warm, like soups. It doesn't have to be extremely hot, but at least room temperature. Stews are really good, especially cooked vegetables while you are recovering, because salads may not help you as much. Cooked vegetables are easy to digest. Fermented foods, some people like yogurt, and I am lactose intolerant, but I'm sure that you also have, other like coleslaw, things that you can eat and they can help you with the digestion. Healthy fats, of course. There's ghee that you can make or buy. Olive oil is my favorite, and I never fry it. Of course, it's always like raw in my food. I put it on top of broccoli sometimes, or even just any steamed veggies. The olive oil is always a winner. Warm water, yes. I like teas, especially herbal teas, not like black tea because that has caffeine. But I will drink it, but it's preferably to do the herbal tea. Bone broth, if you eat meat, I don't eat meat, but definitely a really good, powerful broth for your tummy. Papaya and pineapple are the best enzymes. I love papaya. And if you buy it naturally, like, the supermarket sometimes doesn't have the best quality, but if you are able to live in a country where you can get really fresh pineapple and papaya, it's even better. So the things to avoid, like I said, ice drinks, they really damage you, your chi. The raw salads, when you're already inflamed, maybe not so easy to digest. Sugar is always a bad idea. Fried foods, it will always, give you reflux and it will ferment in the body and it's kind of like hurt your liver very quickly. And any refined flour, that's always the worst. And there's now different flours that you can use. I think it's spelt flour and there's like almond. Those are a little better, but definitely my favorite is oatmeal. You can make it or like even make it really refined in a way that you can use it to bake or even bake it and just put it in water and then use it with other, cacao, or you can add banana or even like avocado in a way that you can bake it. So people don't know that there's so many ways to replace the processed food or the bread that is out in the market in the supermarkets. So refined flour would be best to avoid. So we are at the end of the chapter. If you have any other questions, please put them in the end of the chat so I can help you address. But yeah, that was most of it for the digestive system. So thank you so much for paying attention and watching this.